Hello, everybody. It is episode 20 of There's Treasure Inside Edition, and I am joined again by the management. The management, can you believe that we are at episode 20?
I can't believe we're at episode 20. I'm so excited that we have so much to talk about and that the communities are still kicking up dust and coming out with new theories. And we have so much to talk about. And I feel like every time you turn over one stone, there's 15 underneath it. So lots and lots to talk about always.
That's a really good point because you brought up to me before we started recording that There's Treasure Inside Edition has now been going 6 months. And if you think back to the time when we very first started the very first show, thinking forward 6 months, I think, for example, that a lot of people thought that a box would already be found, which one has not been found in the first 6 months. But no one really knew what the landscape was going to look like in 6 months. So it's interesting to be here now. The book has been out for, like we've talked about, 6, 7, 8 months now.
No, it's exactly 6 months the book's been out today.
Oh, 6 months the book's been out. Okay, yeah.
Yes.
So similar time frame. We started pretty soon after the book came out, but people are still coming up with theories. Is this where you thought we would be at 6 months in?
Well, this is not where the roosters thought we'd be at 6 months in, I'll tell you that much. But I expected a little bit more time boots on the ground. I guess I hadn't really thought about snow being a Floridian, and how long into the year it lasts, and how, some places out west, they've still got snow. And then I know I've been in Montana in like September, and then there's snow again. So that's only 4 or 5 months of search time.
For those who don't know, a rooster is someone who says, I am 100% sure I've got the location of the box. I'm going out this week to go grab it. And everyone has proven so far they have not found the box. So all the roosters have been wrong. But it's an interesting point you make there about the snow, because I forgot about the fact that when this book was released, it was like a month of chatter. And then John Collins Black was like, and by the way, there's a lot of snow on the ground. So you should give up until the snow clears about 5 months from now. So a good chunk of that time, even John Collins Black himself has said that the boxes cannot be found, and only now is the snow receding and the box can be found. I have a feeling that maybe that wasn't his intention to launch it and then immediately say you can't find the boxes for 5 months. But who knows?
I have a theory on why he postponed the book launch.
This is storm related, right?
No, it
Oh,
is.
okay.
I think it was a political move. I think he wanted to wait till after the election to release the book.
Okay. Are we getting political? Where are we going with this?
I mean, we could get political. I see it a lot, but people tend to get their panties in a wad when people get political. So I don't want to, hurt anybody's fragile feelings.
Well, it's the thing is though, for me, it's when the politics comes out in completely unrelated posts. It seems like these days we'll be looking at some piece of pop culture or history, and inevitably there's someone saying that's Biden's fault or that's Trump's fault, right in the comments, and you're just like, what kind of life do you live where you're inserting politics into every aspect of your life?
We are living in a pre-dystopian universe, that's why.
Okay. All right. So, how was your week this week? Did you do any treasure hunting? Did you do any studying? Or was it more of the recreational kind?
Um, well, I did spend the weekend with my mom since it was Mother's Day, and I forced her to rewatch Golden Greed with me, and I probably annoyed the shit out of her because every time Justin Posey was on the camera, I had to pause it and look at something, which he's on there a lot, so there was a
Oh,
lot of
yes.
pausing.
Right. So you're using it as a chance to rewatch it to look for the clues for Beyond the Map's Edge, right?
Right, and also try to get my mom interested in my hobby, which she's getting there.
Oh, okay. Did she feign interest, or she actually asked you any questions about it?
Yeah, she asked a lot of questions and she is more of a purist where she doesn't really want to be influenced by the online community. She wants to find what she finds and then extrapolate her own ideas from that.
Oh, so she actually wants to participate.
She does. She's got a lot going on, so she doesn't have a lot of time, but she finds it interesting for sure.
Well, we're gonna have the management's mum on the podcast one day? Is that
Maybe
a
that could be
possibility?
really interesting.
I'd look forward to that.
I know you said it was your daughter's birthday this weekend. How did that go?
It was, yes, I'm not sure everyone wants to hear all about it, but you know what I did? I made a treasure hunt for my daughter at her 9-year-old birthday party with about 10 9-year-old girls. And the night before, I've made treasure hunts before. The night before, I was thinking, oh, I got to come up with these clues for this treasure hunt, like 5 or 6 clues, and think about it. Then I thought, wait a second, we have ChatGPT at our disposal. So I just said to ChatGPT, can you make a treasure hunt for aimed at 9-year olds and include a small Buddhist statue and a bicycle and all these other places I hid clues. And out came a treasure hunt ready for them. And I thought, what am I thinking? I'm so old, it took me like at least 5 minutes to think of that. I'm sure the youngins would have put it straight into ChatGPT. So that's probably the best ChatGPT application I've used to date because they had a great time running around the house finding the clues to the treasure hunt.
Well, what was the big treasure?
The treasure was a small stuffed teddy bear.
And did your daughter win or did one of her friends win?
One of her friends won, yes, but it was fun, and I didn't have to give them too much hints. It was pretty much the uh, right framing of the treasure hunt for 9-year olds. So I give props to ChatGPT for that.
That's awesome. I'm sure ChatGPT appreciates the shout out.
That's right. Okay, so I have to run through some treasure hunt token hunts that we've been putting on for the free episode 19 hunt. For those who have not done this yet, it is free and you can get real money for the winning. So I don't know what you're waiting for. It's like your daily Wordle. You should be participating in this with your morning coffee or tea or whatever you drink. Okay, so for the first one, for the episode 19 hunt, there were some large blue springs, okay, and they were surrounded by pine trees. Okay. So, do you know anything about Blue Springs management?
Well, there is a little state park in Central Florida called Blue Springs State Park.
And that was exactly it. That was the website you had to go to. Blue Spring State Park. I thought you might know because you live in Florida. Okay, so if you go to Blue Spring State Park's website and scroll down, 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 there's lots of icons there. There's one with a pine tree there, and right next to it, it says the words Nature Trail. So that was the answer for the episode 19 hunt.
Very nice.
Okay, so for the token holder hunt 2 that we put out, for those who have treasure hunt tokens, around $15 worth, there was a bunch of dogs. I thought of you. You're a big dog person, right?
Absolutely. Have 3 of them in my house right now.
Okay, well, there's a bunch of cute little dogs there, and they all had straws in their mouth. So if you Google straw dogs, that's actually a movie. And one of these cute little dogs is sitting on a director's chair. So actually, the solution for this week was not so much a website, but the information was on the internet that the director of the latest version of Straw Dog's name is Rod Lurie. And that was the solution for this week's hunt for people that owned treasure hunt tokens.
Nice. Always good when it's a dog themed anything.
All right, so we'll need another code for this week. Are you gonna? Oh, am I crowdsourcing this again? Are you gonna give me a code, or should I think of one myself?
No, I'll give you one. So, Blue Springs was the one from last week. And for those of you who don't know, Blue Springs is a natural spring in Central Florida, and the water temperature is about 70 degrees year round. There's a specific number. I don't know what it is. But if you were unfortunate enough to book your Disney vacation in the middle of June and July, I highly suggest you take a day off and enjoy the cool waters of the springs. You can float through Blue Springs State Park on a tube. It's a family friendly activity, and they have code word manatee.
Ah, you picked something that's really hard to spell. All right. So what's the code? How do you spell the code word?
Manatee.
Okay, I would have got that wrong, but I'm glad you spelled it out for me. Okay, manatee is the code for this week's free treasure hunt. But again, there'll be another treasure hunt with more money winnings if you wanted to go ahead and buy some treasure hunt tokens. All right, so we've been putting this off for a few weeks. We are gonna talk about the lion's share this week. Are you ready?
I am so ready because I just stumbled upon something that I really hope lines up to be something.
Okay, well, we did talk Lion Share last week with our guest, Rob. He gave some theories for the missing page 90. That's technically in the Lion Share chapter, so we
Yeah.
have touched on Lion Share already. But I believe you've been doing some research this week on the Lion Share as more of a holistic view. Did you want to run us through what you found this week?
I'm going to run you through it, so I'm going to ask for some patience because you're going to think I'm smoking crack, but I'm not, even though I'm from Florida. Okay.
Okay,
So, the lion's share, the name itself comes from Aesop's fables, right?
okay.
Aesop's fables are known for the quote unquote moral of the story is all of that originated from Aesop's fables. He tells stories, including animals, and every one of those stories has a moral to the story, something we teach children. Um,
Aesop's fables are very old, like
is it Aesop or is it Aesop? I don't know.
probably Aesop. Let's go with Aesop. People are probably yelling at us right now. More educated people than us in the matter are yelling at us right now. It's Aesop. Okay,
How do you pronounce Aesop fables? Yep, it's Aesop. You were right. Damn it. Okay, here we
okay,
go. See, I'm not afraid to be wrong, people. Aesop's fables. All right, here we go. So I think the most popular one is probably Tortoise and the Hare, right? Which slow and steady wins the race. How many times have you
oh,
heard that in
right.
reference to treasure hunting, right? All right, so The Lion's Share is the title of one of the fables, and it's a story about a lion, a fox, a jackal, and a wolf. They all hunt down a stag, but in the end, the lion is very greedy and eats the majority and then dares the rest of the animals to challenge him for what's ever is left. So I said I wasn't going to get political, but here we are. The moral of the story is that you may share in the labors of the great hunt, but not in the spoils. And it's meant to be a warning against tyranny from those with great power. Their strength can become cruelty if left unchecked.
Okay, so the fable though, how many animals was there?
There are technically five, right? So you've got the lion, the fox, the jackal, and the wolf, but then they hunt down and kill a stag. So there's five animals in
Yes.
five boxes.
Okay, okay, I can see this. And so, are you suggesting that each box is related to one of the animals?
Exactly. I got the idea because I was thinking about Winnie the Pooh and how each one of those characters has a different personality disorder.
Okay.
So I was like, maybe he's doing the same thing, but with Aesop's fables.
What I really like about this is that this is something I could see him doing of having one overriding story that represents the entire book because that ties everything together really nicely. So I like the idea of each chapter being represented by an animal and getting clues from that to help solve each chapter. I think that would be a really cool thing that he could have done. So I'm on board. I'm buying. Remember our buying and selling. I'm buying.
So Chaz is on board. All right, now I got to get the rest of you on board. Okay. What I ended up doing is using good old ChatGPT to do research on Aesop's fables. In that, I asked it to look at all of the characters from across all of the stories and to do character analysis of the common qualities of their personalities.
Okay.
So, the lion obviously lines up with the lion's share. We're not going to, dig into that too much. What really made my spidey senses tingle is the fox. The fox is best known as a clever trickster. Who does that sound like?
That sounds like the Pokemon.
Forrest Fenn. How many times has Forrest Fenn
Sorry, I
been
missed it.
he has been I know, man, come on, I set you up and you just fumbled it. Forrest Fenn has been described as a clever trickster so many
That's
times.
true. That's true. He is like a fox. Okay. Now I see the light.
I wouldn't exactly call him a silver fox, but some might. Um, he's sly and quick-witted and skilled at flattery and deception. Okay? Okay, next one. So, this one I think is the weakest,
Okay.
um, being the jackal. I think it relates to the Pokemon box because of the transformation of Froakie to Greninja. Again, I'm sure I'm not pronouncing those right. The jackal is a secondary predator and feasts off what is left by others.
Okay.
So I don't know a ton about the Pokemon box. I've kind of put it in my periphery because I really that's a level of nerddom that I can't really invest myself in. So I understand that that's the weakest
I
link here.
agree. I agree. No, I agree with that. At some point, I need to dive in, but let's assume that that's the jackal.
Yeah.
What have we got
So
left?
if we've got somebody who is buying into this theory and is also a Pokemon person, hit us up and we'll bring you on the show to talk about it.
I know we need to crowdsource this. We're doing our best to gather the theories, but if this is sparking something inside of you where you're thinking, "Ah, wait a second, one of these animals really links up with one of the boxes," then let us know. Email us at there's treasure inside edition at gmail.com.
All right, so next one, we've got the wolf. I think this one is the past and future box because the wolf takes advantage of others through lies and manipulation, and essentially, ciphers are a manipulation.
Okay, yes, I could see that. Man, these animals are not being painted in the best light, are they?
Well, these are all the predators. So in Aesop's fables, damn it, I got to get that out of my brain. In Aesop's fables, the animals are broken out into the two categories of predators and prey, right?
Well, just because you're a predator doesn't make you evil. Maybe they do some charity work on the side and they just, got to get a meal once in a while. I don't think that makes them evil, but apparently it does with the characteristics that we found.
You can take it up with Aesop. That's all I got to say.
Okay, so where were we at? The trickster, wolf? No, wolf. Wolf was past and future box.
Past and future manipulation ciphers. And then last but not least, the stag. I think represents the AT foot bath box because John Collins Black describes it as the most ornate of all the boxes, and the stag represents the pride and folly of vanity.
Okay, I like that. And I was actually thinking the trail, a stag would be something that would run for a long time, down a very long trail. That's what made me think the stag was also the Appalachian Trail box.
Right, and the reason that the stag represents that vanity, there's one of the stories is where he is like praising himself for his good looks with his big antlers and everything, but then body shaming himself over his legs, but ultimately he's eating and his antlers are the part that gets ensnared in the trap, and then his legs are what save him.
Okay, but so how long is this tale? Like, what are we talking? Like 1,000 words? Like, how long is it?
There's many of them.
But this one in particular, is like 100 words, 1,000. Is there much depth to it?
Oh, it's very short. Aesop's The Lion's Share is only about 100 to 150 words.
What I was trying to get at is, what are we going to gain from this? Like, is there words within the fable that can help us solve each of the boxes?
I don't know about that, but there's 725 fables in total. That's a lot of morals to learn, but I think with my theory that each of these characters representing a box, I think we need to learn about those characters in order to apply their characteristics in our processing of the hunt.
So, is some of these characters in other fables as well?
Yes. There's the lines, like, in a bunch of different ones, and
Oh, so it's like the Aesop's universe, like the Marvel universe. They're like
yes, it's
crossovers.
Aesop's universe, that's exactly it.
Okay, great. Now I understand. I was thinking it was just 100 words we had to decipher. So that is a lot of fables. Okay, so we're gonna have to learn a lot of lessons. You did say before there was a lesson on greed in this, though, right? Now, one of the chapters he talks about greed. So I believe what John Collins Black was trying to do was teach us how to find a treasure when you're doing a treasure hunt. Like, don't have confirmation bias, for example. Don't be too greedy. So in a way, some of the things that he is telling are fables. The stories that in each of the chapters of the Lion Share is a fable in itself, telling a moral of the story. So that in a way, this is kind of like John Collins Black's fables, just like Aesop's fables.
Ooh, I like that. And I also think that aligns with the pick and axe theory. Have we talked about the pick and axe theory before?
I don't remember if we had, so let's talk about it.
So he's always said in the book, right, that the treasure is hidden, not buried, but yet this pick and axe symbol continues to pop up throughout the book, right? It's like the main like iconograph.
Right.
And if you Google pick and axe theory, it comes from the gold rush, in that during the gold rush, people were, obviously making money off of finding gold, but the people who were really making money are the ones that were selling the picks and axes,
Yes.
because you were guaranteed to sell a pick and an axe, but you were not guaranteed to find gold.
Yes. So that was one of the morals of the story, I guess, that he's trying to tell.
Right. And he's been no shy of saying themes, so I don't think morals of the story and themes are too far off from each other.
Okay, all right. So we're gonna have to let this ruminate a little bit, maybe through the week. See if we can refine this a little bit. The John Collins Black Book of Fables that we're putting together.
And like we said, if anybody is out there and this is cooking in their brain and you stumble across anything, feel free to hit us up. We'll bring you on.
Okay, well, I have something on the past and future box. So I have been looking at some of the forums and looking to see if there's anything we missed on some of the boxes we've talked about. And when I was perusing some of the forums, I did come across another theory for the past and future box. Can I run you through that theory that others have come up with?
Hit me.
Well, I'm going to, and the reason for this is you are now the subject matter expert on this theory because you said before you're familiar with it.
Uh
Okay,
oh.
so the tie-in with the past and future box is to the movie The Goonies. Have you
Oh,
seen The
yes.
Goonies?
I have.
I have not. That makes you the subject matter
What
expert.
the actual fuck? I am not going to edit that out because I am just blown away.
We might get taken off YouTube. We'll see. Okay, so I haven't seen that. Watch the preview to the movie. I still think I made the right decision by not watching it. All right, so the Goonies. There's a number of reasons why this ties into this treasure inside. Number one,
I'm so embarrassed for you right now that you have not seen the
but
Goonies. This is just mind blowing. You're the treasure guy. Come on.
but I've watched Back to the Future about 100 times, so it makes up for it. Okay, so 80s movie. It's an 80s movie, and like you just mentioned, it's about a treasure hunt. That's a pretty good start, right?
Yes.
Okay, so 1980s. It's a 1980s themed chapter for the Past and Future box, and it's pretty much the main treasure hunt movie of the 1980s. I think that gives it a solid start. Okay, so it did mention that in the book we've talked about before that many have pointed out that he mentions in the book. I was looking at the box that was made and it reflected a state of gold. So a state of gold generally is referring to California. Now, the Goonies is actually set in Oregon, but what is true is the final scene was actually filmed in California, if that
Okay.
helps. Does that help you at all with the theory?
I honestly don't see where you're going with this.
Well, I'm already halfway through, so if I'm not going anywhere, we're in trouble. But our so our friend of the show, Froggy, did mention that about a minute into the News Nation interview, he said, "This is John Collins Black said he grew up watching Indiana Jones and the Goonies."
And I also remember seeing a Goonies, or an interview. I think it was the Drew Pearson show. He said, "Oh yeah, I love the Goonies," and then he makes a funny face. And as we know from Golden Greed, Justin Posey created that facial recognition of, micro expressions. And so I have felt like that's a major micro
Yes.
expression with John Collins Black and a relationship to the Goonies.
Okay. So we know that John Collins Black has watched the Goonies. Okay. So there definitely could be a tie in there. Having said that, though, if this was the major theme, would he mention the Goonies? Maybe. You never know. Okay. Lastly, something that some people brought up was there was a part in the movie. I'm not sure if you remember, but there's a coin with a hole in it, and if you hold up the coin, it pointed to a point of interest in the movie. Do you remember that part?
It it does, and it also acts as a key.
Oh, okay. So some people are speculating in the word search that the zeros on there, sorry, I shouldn't say the zeros, the O's on there are actually holes that you're meant to line up with something to find the right location of the treasure.
Oh, okay. I like that. Line up with something physically like it happened in the Goonies, or would you use it as like a peephole and like run it over the pages of the book?
Well, I would say either. I think the people in the forums were referring it to being in real life, holding it up like the Goonies did. But I think hovering that over the book with the holes might be something you could do as well. Maybe it's one of those ones where I think it's called like a sieve cipher or something, where you put it over text, and if you put it in the right location, certain words will pop up to read a message.
Mm, so many ciphers.
Okay, but the last thing that they wanted to mention in the forums, or they did mention in the forums, was that the final scene or the final location in the movie The Goonies was at Ecola. So to make sure I get this right. Yeah. So the final scene was at the Ecola State Park in Cannon Beach, Oregon. There is a state park where they filmed the very end of uh, the Goonies, and I was looking at this state park, a very beautiful state park, but lots of caves, lots of trails, lots of place to put the treasure.
You just did the Trump thing. It's a gorgeous state park, very beautiful state park.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I've been infiltrated. My mind's been infiltrated. But it looks like a great place, very beautiful location to have a treasure box. In the Ecola, I did not want to say the E. coli State Park, the Ecola State Park. So that's also been suggested as a place where the treasure might be hidden.
Okay, I'm a
Okay,
little
end
confused.
scene.
'Cause you
What's
said a
okay?
minute ago that the last scene was in California, but then you're saying now it's in Oregon. So
No,
can you
it was set
clarify?
in Oregon. Sorry, I believe it was set in Oregon in that state park, and I haven't seen the movie, but it was actually filmed in California.
So
That's
it's
my
meant
understanding.
to be in the state park that's in Oregon, but it's not actually where they filmed it.
I think so, but I haven't seen the movie. But I actually looked up the actual E. coli, no, the E. coli State Park, and it looks great. That was what I was talking about. The
Very
real one.
beautiful. Greatest park there is.
That's right. Okay, so are you buying or selling the Goonies references?
I definitely think there's got to be a Goonies element somewhere in the book. Goonies map, if anybody wants it, I have a high res version that I searched out of the internet. And the Goonies map, if you remember correctly, you have to fold it in order for the full message to appear. Of course, you wouldn't know that, Chaz, since you haven't watched it.
No.
It's my turn to give you shit today.
Okay.
I know a lot of people have taken the Appalachian treasure map and folded it in a bunch of different ways, especially because of the creases. I obviously like what you're saying about the holes in the map because that would relate to the key that was used in the Goonies for sure. I'm gonna have to let it marinate. I mean, there's the shipwreck, right? The shipwreck chapter and One Eyed Willie and all that jazz.
Well, think about it. Let it again ruminate, marinate during the week.
Okay, so your homework for this week, Chaz, is to watch The Goonies. It's kid friendly, so you don't have any excuses. Family movie night. I'm dictating it. You've got to do it. Make your wife watch it. I hope your wife's already seen it. She's American, right?
Yes.
Okay, so then she's probably definitely seen it.
Probably, definitely. Okay. All right. So, did you have any other theories on the past and future box you wanted to go through?
As usual, I pose more questions than I do answers, and that's just how my life goes. I'm sorry. I wish I had them all, but I don't. When I was doing the research for the Aesop's Fable stuff, nailed it that time. I actually was rereading all the small chapters to make the alignments, and I think we made an assumption that would make sense with the wolf being a liar and a manipulator. So the last paragraph of page 225, which is right before he goes to the word search, says, however, I was able to remember one game from my childhood that I felt capable of bringing into this book. It's not as fun as Pac Man, and it's not as imaginative as Dungeons and Dragons, but it is a game I am pretty sure you can excel at. Just don't get upset at me if it's too easy. Remember, I already told you that you are not required to be a genius to find any of our treasures.
That whole paragraph, pretty much you could pick apart from clues on almost every word. It's so vague, so subjective that it's weird who would put it in there. It's just dripping with clues, I think, that paragraph.
The grand assumption is, right, that the game that he's referring to is the word search. But what if it's not that game? What if he's referring to a completely different game?
Well, I actually have been thinking about that. I thought that from the beginning, actually. So I was trying to figure out what game could he be referring to. But then I thought he was referring to the car counting game he refers to just after that. It's not clear which game he's referring to, whether it's like you mentioned, the ones he just talked about, the word search, the one he's about to talk about with the counting cars, or something completely outside of the book. And I'm not sure whether it's supposed to be clear about that at all, whether we're supposed to know that or not.
Right. And I know you and me have talked about the line that says, I'm pretty sure you can excel at. And now I'm wondering what other games are word based related other than like Scrabble and Upwards that could be plugged into like a Microsoft Excel format. Like Snake could be in a grid format.
Yep. It's so weird though. What did you say? It's more interesting than Pac-Man or something? Like it's
It's
something that
not as
you
fun
couldn't
as
just say
Pac Man.
objectively.
It's not as imaginative as Dungeons and
Right.
Dragons.
But not as fun as Pac-Man. Like, who would decide that? That's just in the eye of the gamer, so to speak. So it's weird that he says that as like an objective thing. That it definitely is not as fun as Pac-Man, even though someone else might find whatever it is as fun as
Right.
Pac-Man. So I find that a very strange way of wording, and I don't have answers either. I just have
Yeah, so
questions.
I think that's something everybody should think on. If does the game mean the game in the book, the word search, or is the game a completely separate game?
That is something I would like to ask Mr. John Collins Black.
And he would say, I can't answer that.
That's right, and then laugh as well at the same time.
Yeah, he does have a really fun little giggle that's kind of evil. I like it.
Okay, so let's do more lion's share next week since we've been slacking on the lion's share. Okay,
Okay, let's hope that somebody else wants to come on and talk to us. That would be nice.
that would be nice, but we'll have content if they don't, and we'll go through some of the other theories that we've been looking at. Remember, part of the reason we have this show is to gather all the different theories across all the different corners of the internet. So we'll continue to do that. We'll continue to put together some theories, come back next week, and speak to you about what we found on the forums.
I am very excited to learn what you dig up next week, Chaz. I'm going to let you steal the show next week.
For the lion share. Okay, I'll take lion share. But what about you? You want to look at anything on the Appalachian Trail, see if we've missed anything on that?
I'm going to rewatch the Goonies too and see if I can think of anything.
Okay, good. All right, well, that's it for this week. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And please, if you can, like, subscribe, share it with your friends if you're comfortable doing that. If you're not embarrassed by us, share it to your friends. And I hope everyone's having fun hunting. Let us know your latest theories, and we would love to share your theories on the podcast, even if you can't come on yourself. Have a great week, everyone, and we'll speak to you next week.
Thanks, everyone. Happy hunting.